I wanted to follow up on a couple of matters that we've touched on. Ms. Wilkerson, you and I talked about this. I don't want to say it's easy, but it's relatively straightforward to count the number of tanks on the ground from a satellite feed or determine the flow of ammunition or material. What has turned out to be very hard is to have an intelligence analysis of the will to fight. And we saw this fail in two recent examples. In Afghanistan, where we overestimated the will to fight of the Afghan government and the people, and Ukraine, where we underestimated it. As we look at conflicts around the world involving other countries where we're going to be coming to their defense or their assistance, how we will approach this question of the will to fight, it is much harder, but it's also incredibly important. Give me some thoughts on that.
So, Senator, I did appreciate very much that conversation, and I think you make a very valid point in terms of the success of a situation really hinging upon the will to fight. I feel like it's a challenging thing, though, to try to ascertain that particular aspect.
It's challenging, but we need to know it.
I agree with you 100%. And so if confirmed, it is certainly something that I would put some focus on understanding how could we be able to ascertain the will to fight.
Well, the DNI has done substantial work on this. I would urge you to study, do some homework on what they've already done, talk to the DNI, talk to your colleagues in the interagency, because this is a crucial factor as we're talking about Taiwan, for example. We need to know what the commitment of the Taiwanese people are to their own defense. It just seems to me that's an important bit of intelligence in determining policy. Mr. Solmeyer, a couple of quick questions for you. One is attribution. If we're talking about a cyber attack, it's becoming harder and harder to determine where it comes from. Does the U.S. government have sufficient resources in a coherent structure to do attribution of cyber attacks in a timely and reasonably certain way?
Senator, the tools and the experience necessary to attribute adversary cyber activity have to keep evolving with their behavior. So I believe that historically we have been able to attribute and understand with varying levels of confidence at different times who's doing what. The difference is when the government is willing and when it makes sense to say so publicly versus to be private about it. But I commit to working with the committee and, of course, my leadership on that transparency.
Well, my question is, who is we? Is there a central office somewhere in the federal government of attribution, or is some of it in the FBI, some of it in the CIA? I'm just concerned that this is such an important question, but that institutionally, structurally, we don't have a central area to do this essential function.
It's a good point, Senator, that there's a lot of different organizations, a lot of cooks in the cyber kitchen. And so because different kinds of malware have different technical specifications, you want the best experts to be able to come look at any given piece of code. So I'd want to just make sure that that community of interest is clear about who they are and that they have the tools they need to work fast and then share that internally.
I hope this is something you'll look at with your interagency colleagues. Whenever I hear the term around here, all of government, I think none of government, because nobody is responsible. So think about that. Second question for you is workforce. Are you able to recruit and retain the people that you need? My sense is there's a giant shortfall of cyber-capable trained people across the country. Does that also affect what you're going to be doing?
Well, Senator, for cyber operations, that is those higher-end active defense and offense type work, we find that, at least in the Army, in my experience thus far, it's been one of the most competitive fields. For example, coming out of West Point, it's one of the hardest fields to get into. So the interest in doing it is there, and coming into the service is there. I think the bigger challenge that I would commit to, if confirmed, is the retention side, and making sure we stay as competitive as we can, not matching, but competitive as we can with industry, and being flexible where possible to keep folks who want to stay and serve on the mission.